Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, what I wanted to talk about is the upcoming announcement for 3.10 and what to expect with that. So, Path of Exile has new expansions roughly every 3 months, and most of them consist of a sort of large-scale challenge league that'll have some moderate changes to the base game that'll happen immediately, and the challenge league will be an economy reset and a new ladder that you can participate in. Other times, you will have something more like what we just experienced with 3.9, where there's a smaller scope challenge league like Metamorph or Abyss for 3.1 2 years ago, or Fall of Oriath 2.25 years ago, that will have major shakeups to the core game alongside a pretty small a pretty small challenge league. 3.10 is back to the norm though, so this will be a larger scale challenge league alongside lots and lots of little changes. So to give a bit of a sense as to what to expect, I pulled up the 3.9 announcement here. So there was a separate one for both Metamorph and for the Conquerors of the Atlas content. I just want to quickly go through some of the things that might not be immediately obvious. So there's a video trailer that's cool and well worth watching. Obviously not much point watching the Metamorph one now, it's still interesting, it's still an enjoyable watch, but it's not something that has any real information of note in it. However, these videos will always contain little teasers that will be hidden away in there. No one is going to pick all of them up on a first watch, and there's going to be a lot of discussion on the Path of Exile subreddit, and there'll be a huge mega thread dedicated to picking up all the little pieces of information that can be found in there. Additionally, the page will have a number of slides below it. So there'll be the video, and then below it there'll be a number of slides that will have some more information on them as well. Some of these will have just a high-level overview of what to expect in the new league content, and that's potentially going to be more complicated in whatever comes in 3.10 than the fairly simple and fairly shallow Metamorph content was. That's to be expected because with 3.9, Metamorph was a small fraction of the new content, whereas the Conquerors of the Atlas overhaul of Endgame was the big deal. In 3.10, it's all going to be about the new league. So, the Metamorph side of things had some information, some numerical information on catalysts and how they worked. Not everything there, some of it has to be found out in-game. And so as you'll see here, there's information on 3 of the types of catalysts, and there's a sort of hint there would be, there's information proving there's at least 7 of them, although it's not clear that there are actually exactly 7. That's something we didn't know until the league started. It also gives a little bit of information that can help you potentially figure out how the new mechanics work. Anyway, then there's a little bit more high-level information there and the link to Conquerors of the Atlas. In a normal league expansion, so in a normal expansion, so one that's not coupled with major overhaul of Endgame, there'll also be a whole bunch more. And for this, for 3.9, this information was shuffled off into the Conquerors of the Atlas page. There's information on the new skill gens, which undoubtedly there'll be new skill gens in 3.10. We don't know what they're going to be. There'll be new types of items added. And here you can see, some of these are quite accessible, some of them aren't. A stack of 10 of one of the Conqueror's Exalted Orbs is something that's a pretty hard thing to get your hands on, even in a trade league. So that's something that most people won't see, but you'll get 1 or 2 of these if you play the game a lot. And then there's some examples of influenced items, varying from the mediocre but with 1 very good mod, to the solid with 2 good mods, and through to the pretty damn extraordinary. All of this gives a bit of a sense of some of the possibilities of the new crafting that was introduced in Conquerors of the Atlas. Now we may not see new crafting types in 3.10, or we might. That'll be something that we'll find out on Wednesday morning my time. So it is Wednesday morning my time, but it may be Tuesday for you if you're in the United States, Canada, or Europe. Then there's information on any major systems overhauls. I'm kind of expecting there might be a wand rework, but that's to be decided. I don't have any foreknowledge of that. That's just me speculating. Then there's usually what tends to be one of the most interesting parts of the page. That'll be where there'll be information on new items. Any new item that's released and revealed early will be revealed because it's something that can build some hype. There's always new unique items. Some of them will just be role players that will be interesting fits in certain builds, but that won't totally transform the way that you create a character. But The Conquerors of the Atlas content in particular had a number of unique items that transformed the way you build a character. The Ivory Tower is a good example of a chess piece. I don't think people have done all that much with it yet. It hasn't proven to be as powerful as I first thought it would be, but it's something that transforms the way a character is built and redefines the value of various stats and the like on for a character. Mana Storm is similar. It's an item that rewards you for having an extraordinarily large mana pool, but it rewards you through powerful offense, and it does so in a very different way to Indigon, which is the other item that creeps into that same design space. Undoubtedly, there will be build-defining unique items like Mana Storm in 3.10, and one or two of them will probably be hyped on this page. Some of the rest will be held off to keep people's interest in 3.10 going for a bit longer. Hands of the High Templar was one of the zaniest items introduced in 3.9. No guarantee that there'll be anything as zany as this in 3.10, but if there is, it's probably going to be something that'll be revealed early. And the other thing that I think a lot of people underestimate is the influence of the divination cards. Some of the higher profile ones will be previewed early on, I expect, on Wednesday's release. And here we had The Chosen, which has really flown under the radar. This has been one of my favourite divination cards this league. Lots of fun to turn in. I turned in 10 on a video. Had lots of fun with that and actually made quite a lot of currency out of doing so. And then there's Succor of the Sinless, which has helped make Bottled Faith far more accessible than it has been in any previous league, including Synthesis when the Cortex was much more available than it is now. The fact that this divination card's getting pulled out of stat decks all the time, and I think it drops somewhere as well. I've never seen it drop, so I don't know where it drops, but it does presumably drop somewhere. All of this means that this divination, the flask has been more accessible than it's ever been in the past. So also there's Leash of Ablation, which hasn't really performed very well, but it had a lot of potential. All of these will be things to look for when 3.10 hits. It'll be a new slate of unique items, divination cards, and potentially new rare item mods or things like that, all of which could be really interesting to keep an eye on. Anyway, that's a bit of what to expect if you haven't been around for one of these league launches before. If you're looking for something to do in the interim, obviously you can chase up your 36 challenges in Metamorph if you're still intending to do so, or even go for 40 if that's your goal, or just get your 12 or 24 if that's where you're going for. I'm also running a private league, Recalcitrant League, which you're more than welcome to apply to join. It's going to be running until the 12th of March. It's a league with the Metamorph. It's based on Metamorph softcore trade enabled, but you can't trade with people in normal Metamorph, only within Recalcitrant. So it's a small pool of people, and there's a lot of hard mods in there to make it sort of feel like a grueling and difficult experience. I'm playing a build that's almost been a total failure in it. I've been trying to play a Tectonic Slam Juggernaut, and it has been terrible, but that's been fun. It's been fun to just get my ass kicked a bit in yellow maps and even in white maps. And that's something that's a really refreshing way to play the game. So feel free to join in that if you're wanting to still keep playing in the interim. Anyways, going to leave it there. I hope you have a good one.